Okay, after the typical inconvenience, we are open to talk. I know I have to reopen the file. Give me a second. But they restarted the computer. Again? Share the screen? You want me to share the screen?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So today we're going to talk about the marginal cost of capital schedule. Do you remember what we said it is around? What is it? What is it related to? Is related to what? Yes, indeed. How are they related? What and the marginal cost of capital schedule? I don't have to ask you this, but I will. What is marginal? What does marginal refer about? What is marginal about?
An extra unit.
An extra unit, right? And if we talk about marginal cost of capital, what do you think we refer to?
It's
The extra cost of what? So it's the cost of an extra unit of capital. Okay? It's not an extra cost, what it is the cost of an extra unit. Okay? So if the company needs more money, how much does that extra dollar cost? That is the marginal cost of capital. The schedule refers to the fact that the company has different alternatives. They can choose to increase debt by $1, by $2, by $3, by 1 million, by 100,000 million. Okay? So as the company changes or increases the amount of money they use as sources of financing, then the different sources of capital, which are the different sources of capital? Can you remind me? Equity and debt. Exactly. So the cost of the different sources of capital between brackets, debt and equity, tends to change as the company raises additional capital, additional money, right? So the WACC of the company will change. If the cost of the debt or the cost of equity change, then WACC will change. Do we agree on that? Even if the capital structure doesn't. We agree on that? Okay? So the WACC changes if the capital structure changes. But WACC can also change regardless of the capital structure, just because the cost of the debt and the cost of equity change. Right? This marginal cost of capital, which is abbreviated with the acronym MCC, marginal cost of capital. The marginal cost of capital schedule depicts, it's a graph, and the fix shows the relationship between WACC and the various amounts of capital raised, extra capital. Okay? This is the graph that is representative for the marginal cost of capital schedule. On the x-axis, we have the new capital rate, marginal capital. Okay? And on the y-axis, we have the internal rate of return for the projects we will undertake with this extra capital. Okay? As we increase the amount of money we need, this extra unit of capital that we use usually costs more. Why would that be? Because the company becomes riskier if the new capital is there. But if the new capital is equity, yes?
It's the same thing we saw with WACC We have a lot of debt that is paid first, so the people with equity want bigger rate because maybe they don't have pay.
But what if the new capital is only equity? According to the graph, even if the new capital raised is equity only, the marginal cost of capital increases. Why would that be? It is clear that if the new capital raise is there, the company becomes riskier for the shareholders, the cost of equity will increase, and therefore what will increase, and the marginal cost of capital will increase. So why would that be the same for equities?
Because maybe when a company issues more equity, your cost of capital increases because you're paying to, well, you're issuing more equity, and that makes like you have a new cost, for example, for the new shareholders. That's, well, I think that's why the what should increase if a company issue.
Assume we are a company and we want to hire workers. Okay, you arrive to a new city, a small town, so not a city, a small town, and we want to hire workers for our company. Okay, the town is small, so there aren't many people here with the abilities we need. If we only need 10 workers, what can you say about the supply and demand for our job places? Would it be easy or very difficult to find 10 workers? 10 people who want to come and work with us. How much money do we have to offer to convince them to come and work with us to the city?
Easy because there are no like a lot of opportunities. Most of
And if we needed 100,000 people, 1,000 for small town, we need to pay lower or higher salaries or wages to get more people to find new workers that want to come and work with us. Higher. So it's the same for capital. Even if the new capital raise is only equity, it would be more expensive because capital is a limited source. And all companies want money, use money. Right, so you want money, the capital is limited. I'm going to lend money to those who are willing to pay higher costs. Do you know how an auction works? Subasta?
yes.
Who gets the good that is auctioned? The one who offers the most. So it's similar. We go to the financial markets and we auction for money, basically. Is it clear? Makes sense? So, yes.
This graph is different from combining marginal cost of capital.
This is the marginal cost of capital for a company.
The company cost of capital is a U shape.
The weighted average cost of capital,
Yes.
that's a U shape. Yes. The weighted average cost of capital.
So the cost of capital maybe decreases when the equity.
So we have different variables here, yes? If we depict the cost of capital for the firm versus the leverage ratio of the firm, the cost of capital equals what? Right? Then this is the shape of the curve we depict. So in the marginal cost of capital schedule, we are not comparing or relating what to leverage. We are comparing the internal rate of return of the projects of the firm versus the capital raise. Okay, they are completely different graphs.
In the second graph, you suppose that the equity is constant.
Could be, not necessarily, could be. Okay, all right? It's not the same graph. We're not talking about the same thing. Even though we're still talking about Y. Okay? So, the optimal budget for the firm is the point where the two curves intersect. So the red curve is the WACC, the marginal WACC for every dollar that we use in addition. And the blue graph is the return rate of the portfolios of projects that we are accepting in the company. So is it clear why the red curve is ascending? Yeah. Did I manage to explain that? Okay. Now, why would the blue curve be descending? The blue curve is the internal rate of return, the return of the new projects we are accepting in the company. Why is that curve descending?
For the reason.
Because there is, but the higher, so you mean we accept only projects with lower risk?
Yes.
But is that the criterion we have to follow?
It's a little because of the, what you said that the capital is limited.
Yes.
So, for example, if we are investing in a project, maybe we have like less capital to invest in new project. Maybe with less capital, we get less returns because we're taking smaller projects.
Yeah, you're close, yeah. Do you remember from last semester? What do we do? What does a company has to do to decide among a vast number of projects, which ones to accept? What is the criterion the company has to put?
The highest.
The highest return. The highest return?
BPM.
If all projects have the same amount of investment, yes, you are right. But if they don't have the same amount of investment, the higher net present value, right? And we should be able to transform net present value into internal rate of returns, which are comparable with the incremental analysis, remember? The marginal analysis. So why is the blue curve descending? Because when accepting new projects, we would start with the most profitable ones. So the new projects among our pool of possible projects, we would start with the highest marginal internal rate of returns. And the next one would be less profitable, and the next one less profitable, and the next one less profitable. That's why it is descending. Because when accepting projects, the company should start by taking first those which are most profitable. Translated into a marginal internal rate of return. Why marginal? So that we can make it comparable. We do not compare internal rate of return in absolute terms, remember? Because that might be wrong. For projects with different investment outlays, that is a mistake. You can only compare internal rate of return for projects with the same investment. Remember that? So is it clear? So every dollar I include in my capital structure would be more expensive. And every new project I accept will be less profitable than the previous one. Simply because that's the way I should be ranking the projects. All right? Make sense? So the point where these two graphs, the marginal cost of capital and the marginal internal rate of return intersect, that's where the additional cost equals the additional benefit. And that is my equilibrium point of the optimal budget for the group. This is the amount of money I should be borrowing, or not necessarily borrowing. This is the amount of money I should be wasting. So it may be debt and equity. Make sense? Okay? Yes?
Optimal budget is contact because we are keeping the ratio.
Usually you do. Mhm. Okay? So far so good? Now explain to me why this, for example, this level of new capital raise would be inefficient. What's happening here?
Because I will be paying more to the equity holders more than the investment in.
We cannot compare equity and debt in that graph. We compare the cost and the return for the same money, yes?
Maybe because we're, let's say that on the point between the money that we should raise and the last one, the last. Yes,
Mhm.
for example, we're in the blue one, then the amount of return we're getting from our project, the marginal amount of return we're getting from our projects is lower than the amount of the marginal what we're getting, right? So we can pay.
Isn't it the other way around?
Yes.
Right? So let's say this is 1 unit of new capital. Can you see? Do you know? Yes. So this will be $1 more to ask for to raise. The change in the red line is higher than the change in the blue line, isn't it? Right? So the marginal cost for this new dollar, for this extra dollar, is higher than the marginal benefit. The intersection is where the cost and the benefit equals. That's why I should not invest beyond the intersection point. Make sense? Right? Okay. So that's the marginal cost of capital schedule. And it is related to WACC because this line depicts WACCs. Okay? All right. So, definition. The marginal cost of capital is defined as the cost of the last dollar, the extra dollar, of new capital the firm raises, and the marginal cost rises as more and more capital is raised during a given period of time. Okay, and we that's the red line, the red curve. This graph is theoretical because what we usually find in reality is something like this. It's not as smooth as the first graph. Why? Imagine we have a company with a, I think this is not, this should be, this is debt to equity. I don't know why I work equity to perfect lines. So debt to equity of 1, cost of debt 6%, tax rate 30%, cost of equity 15.8%. What is the mark for that here? This is debt to equity, I'm sure. It should not be. Debt to equity equals to 1. So what is the mark for this here? Debt is the capital structure?
1.5.
1.5?
No, 1.
0.5. You agree with the conclusion on the board? No?
I think their fee would be 0.0.
You would think, yes.
Yes.
That right now, is that correct? Not yet? So what is the weighted average cost of capital? Did you get it? 10%. Okay? So let's say a company can hold the cost of debt and the cost of equity for certain amount of money, $8 million, for example. Maintain the cost of debt and the cost of equity. Okay? From 0 to $8 million, the cost of debt for the company would be 6%, and the cost of equity 15.8%. So that means that we have a flat relationship between WACC and that extra amount of money, all those $1 million, right? So that makes our graph to be stepped instead of smooth. Okay, so for this amount of money, we keep the same WACC. But we reach a point in which the cost of one of the two sources, or maybe both, will increase. And then the WACC increases. And then it will probably stay flat for some other $1 million. And then we reach another point where the cost of debt and the cost of equity, or one of the two, increases, and then we have an increasing WACC. And then it stays the same, and then increases. Okay? It's like a ladder, right? It's like a stair. And it's the same for the projects. We don't see the marginal internal rate of return to descend smoothly. It descends in steps, okay, in intervals. That's what this is closest to reality. But still, we can find an intersection point. Still, we can find an optimal budget. All right, makes sense? Yeah. Now, how do we know these break points? These are called break points. The points where the WACC increases, they are called break points. In order to get those points, we need to know the amount of money at which the sources of capital increase from. For example, I know that if I raise $8 million, then the interest rate I have to pay will increase. So $8 million is the amount of capital at which debt increases. And I need to know what is the debt ratio. If, for example, the amount of money is $8 million and the debt ratio is 0.5, how much is 8 divided by 0.5? How much is 8 divided by 0.5? 16? So when I reach $16 million of new raised capital, then I will have a break point in WACC. I will have a higher cost of capital. Okay? Every time I know an amount of debt or an amount of equity increases WACC, I will have a break point. And with that equation, I can calculate a break point. So let's say that for this previous case, this one, as long as new debt is lower than $75 million, the cost of debt will stay at 6%. But beyond $75 million, it will increase. Okay. What is the total amount of capital, the total amount of new capital raised, in which I will have a break point? The question clear? As long as the new capital raised is below $75 million, my cost of debt stays at 6%. If I ask for more than $75 million as a loan, for example, it may go up to 8%. In my marginal cost of capital schedule graph, what is the amount of total capital? Remember that total capital is debt plus equity. What is the amount of total capital in which I will have a break point? 150? How did you get it?
Because I divided 75 by 1 part.
Did you all agree? Yes?
So we get the 0.
It was from here. The debt to equity ratio of 1. Okay? So far, so good?
How can we get the 75 if the exercise does not give us the number?
Well, this is the second part of the exercise, so the exercise is giving you the 75. So that's part of the information given.
Please,
Yes?
the optimal point is that says that the number for the company may accept, right?
Say it again, please.
The optimal point is.
The optimal budget.
Yes, the optimal budget states that the number of projects the company may accept.
It's not the number of projects, it's the amount of money in new projects. The amount of money, right? I need you to open an Excel file. We're going to work on the next slide. I need you to copy this information. LIBOR rate 4.5%. What is LIBOR? Can anyone remind me? Yeah. Interbank, yeah.
Rates.
Offered rate. And we mentioned that it does not exist anymore, right? We mentioned that. Okay. And what is RM minus RS?
Market risk.
The market risk premium, the equity risk premium, the same. What did we say? Asset beta measures or intents to measure? What does asset beta measure? Business rate. Excellent. And TC stands for? Sorry, the louder? Taxes. The corporate tax rate. And RF stands for? Risk-free rate. Excellent. Great. So this is the information we have from one company and the market. And we're going to find the optimal capital structure for the firm. Not the optimal budget, the optimal capital structure. It's 0.1, but we still have these often uses cost. So, depending on the leverage ratio, no, not the leverage, depending on the debt ratio of the firm may get an interest rate expressed in basis points above the LIBOR rate. Okay? So depending on the debt ratio of the firm, the cost of debt for the company will be certain basis points above the LIBOR rate. How many basis points? For example, if the debt ratio is 10%, then the interest rate, the cost of debt for the firm is 200 basis points above the LIBOR. If the debt ratio were 0.4, then the cost of debt would be 300 basis points above the LIBOR. Okay? Is it clear? So it goes from 0.1 to 0.9. And in column C, you have the spread expressed in basis points above LIBOR rate. So this exercise, we're going to find for different values of leverage of leverage for the firm, the cost of capital after tax. Okay? How do we know when we find the optimal capital structure for the firm? How will we know? So we have to estimate what for the different leverage ratios and find the minimum. That is the optimal capital structure for this company. Right? Okay. So how do we go from debt ratios and spreads to what? What do we have to do? The equity ratio, okay?
The inverse of the ratio.
The inverse would be 1 over
All those
the difference from 1. Mhm. So 1 minus 0.1, right? The difference from 1. 0.9 is the equity proportion in the capital structure when the company uses 10% of debt. 80, 20, etc.
the taxes are constant, right?
Right. Taxes do not depend on the leverage ratio of the firm. Taxes depend on what? On the mood of the customers, right? Things like that. Okay. So now I have equity ratios. How do I go from there to what? What do I need? What else do I need?
The cost of debt.
The cost of debt. Okay. For the first case, a debt ratio of 0.1, what is the cost of debt?
If LIBOR plus the basis point,
That's correct. And what is the addition I made? 4.5 plus 200?
no, I think we need to modify the spread
Multiply?
by point 001.
So that's dividing it by 1,000, is that right?
No, that's 500.
Is that right?
I think.
Why don't I divide it by 1? multiplied by 0.01, it's the same as divided by 100, right?
Yes, those like.
Multiply. Mhm. Let me express it in this. So when the company uses 10% debt in the capital structure, the cost of debt is 6.5%. Is that correct? Pardon me?
This divided by 1,000, right?
It's divided by 10,000 so that I can express it in decimal terms, so that I can sum it with, add it with the each two cells. If I divide only by 100, then I get 2%. But then my C2 cell, I have decimal number. So I divide it by another 100. Right? So as long as the debt ratio is below 20%, the cost of debt is 6.5. But when the proportion of debt in the capital structure reaches 20%, then the cost of debt goes to it goes to
Why do we use the spread?
because for variable rates, that's how they are quoted. They don't give you the total rate. So the benchmark will change. So as long as the proportion of debt is below 30%, the cost of debt will be 6.5%, right? If it reaches 40%, then the cost of debt increases to 7.5. If it goes up to 50%, the cost of debt goes up to 8.5, and so on, until a 90% debt ratio that results in a 16.5% cost of debt. So there is a point, which in this case is 70%, in which the cost of debt simply rocket, right? Do we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So still, I don't get what? What am I missing? Still. Okay. And how do I estimate cost of delivery? You use CAPM. So for the CAPM, For the capital, we need the cost, we need the risk-free rate, we need data, and we need equity market risk-free. Do we have all that? Everything we have. So tell me what calculations you will do to get the cost of equity for a debt ratio of 0.1. What are you gonna do?
I have to multiply the asset beta times 1 plus the equity ratio. No. Times the
Say it again, asset beta
times 1 plus the equity ratio times 1 minus the tax.
Asset beta times 1 plus
The
the equity.
times 1 minus the tax. But what is multiplying the equity, the one does not have to multiply the tax rate.
So it is not times, isn't it? Right? So it's one plus, right? 1 minus the tax rate and the net working rate, okay?
Yes.
And why are we doing this?
You get the
Because the beta we need to use for the capital is equity beta, we don't have it. We transform the asset beta that we do have information this time in equity betas. Okay? What is the debt to equity ratio that you will use?
It will be changing.
It changes depending on the capital structure in the table. That is that schedule. We have a schedule for debt and equity, okay? So why don't we, in a different column, calculate equity beta?
If the equity radials, if it were 1, you said that we can use as asset beta as the
Yeah, because this will become 1. 0. It will become 0, this will become 1. So asset beta times 1 plus 1 minus the tax rate, 36% this time, times the debt to equity ratio. Zero 0.96. You get that? If the proportion of debt is 10%, the equity beta is 0.96. What do you think will happen to that value as we move down in the table? It should increase, right? See? I know if I'm right. Does it go stop on 6?
Yes.
Okay. So I substitute the equity beta in the pattern equation. Okay. Is the cost of equity for the 10% of debt 8.35?
yes.
Okay. Is anyone have created something? I couldn't hear. So the cost of equity ranges from 8.35 to 28.84. Did you get that?
Yes.
Is there anything else I need before calculating what? You have everything we need? Excellent. So let's see. The cost of debt after taxes times the debt ratio plus the cost of equity times the equity ratio. So what for a 10% debt ratio results in 7.94%? Yes? No?
Yes.
As expected, we introduce cheaper debt, more cheaper debt in the capital structure. The cost of capital decreases to 7.77. If we have a little more debt, it still decreases to 7.60. If we have 10% more debt, it goes up to 7.7. More debt, higher what, higher what, higher what, okay? That's the U shape word. It probably won't be the symmetric, right? No, it won't be symmetric, no, it only one.
Can you show us one viewer again?
For what?
Yeah. Yes.
Miss, how do you get the to equity ratio?
I divided debt ratio over equity ratio, right? Okay, now the plot in the graph, return over debt to equity ratio and plus cost of debt, cost of equity and what together. Is it clear, my friend? So my x-axis will be debt to equity ratio. Then we have the serious cost of debt, cost of equity and what? Oh my God, thanks. Should you look at something similar to what I have on the screen? Taxes should be the same, right? But probably the colors change here.
Can you redo it, please?
Yes. So I have a column for the to equity ratios, then 3 columns for the cost of debt, that's the equity and one. I select the 4 columns, insert, graph, color plot, and like this one, the curve without markers. And then I choose move where to a new script. Did you manage? Does everyone manage? Did everyone manage? Did you manage to get the graph?
Yes.
No. Can anyone explain to me why does the curve for the cost of equity is a straight line?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Why does the curve for the cost of equity is a straight line? Why?
Do you think the changes in the equity?
Because we are using the CAPM as the model to predict the cost of equity, and the CAPM predicts a linear relationship between the market and the return. So we are going to see a straight line expression for the WACC, for the CAPM. Okay?
Okay.
So what is the optimal capital structure for this company? So in other words, if we need to set a target capital structure, which would that be? So let's say today we are a company, a family company, funded 100% with our own money, equity. But you came back from wherever you went, Australia or England, United States, you came back to the company and told us, we should use debt because financially speaking, that is smart to do. Because we can save money by using debt in the capital structure of the firm. So forget about what Grandpa told us 24 years ago. We should ask for money. We should borrow money. What the target structure would be?
It would be 70% equity and 30% debt.
Yeah, does everyone see that? That's the point where what reaches the lowest value, and that corresponds to a 30% debt, 70% equity capital structure. Okay?
Is that shown in the graph?
Yes, probably not very clearly because the difference between the first three waxes very small, but it's quite different. Yes. Is this point? Maybe if we drop the cost of debt and the cost of equity and we just leave white in the graph, we don't have to do that without deleting the variable. Go to seleccionar datos and just deselect cost of debt and cost of equity. We just keep white. And it's clearer, right?
What I don't understand is that or the debt rating, the debt divided by equity.
I forgot the name.
The debt to equity ratio?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
In the optimum, it will be like 0.42. And in the graph in the Y column, it is like 5%, I think. Like.
No.
That will be the Y, yeah.
Looking at the wrong page, yeah. Okay.
Teacher,
Yes,
what are the answers?
what are the answers?
Yes.
The optimal capital structure would be 70% equity and 30% debt. That would result in a cost of capital, weighted average cost of capital of 7.61%.
So, I mean, the axis of the graphic. That's it.
The axis, I'm sorry. So here is the debt to equity ratio on the x-axis, and on the y-axis is return. So let me show you. So debt to equity ratio, that's the x-axis. And then I have three curves. Return for cost of debt, the return for cost of equity, and the return for one. And the debt to equity ratio is the ratio of the debt ratio over the equity ratio. Did I answer now? Okay, yeah, did I answer? Yes.
Yes.
So you show again what you remember.
Uh-huh. So I select my four columns. Insert that. In the graph, I like to choose the dispersion, scattered plot. And I like the one with the lines. And then with the right button of the mouse, I usually choose move graph to a new spreadsheet so it's larger. Okay? So the green line in my graph is one. So it's not very steep, but here is like the minimum, and then it starts with one more, right? It's not a psychometric view, but we do have a minimum. Okay? All right? So questions?
What did you say that was the axis X?
The debt to equity ratio.
That is
The to equity, yes, debt to equity. So you have to divide the debt ratio over the equity ratio, right? Does anyone have a question? Is debt to equity? Did everyone manage to finish the graph? Does everyone understand the interpretation of the result? Yes? Are there any further questions on this exercise? Right? No? Did you manage to see this question? Question number 20? Yes? Has everyone finished the work exercise? The optimal capital structure exercise? Can we move to another one, to another exercise?
Yes.
This is marginal cost of capital schedule. Yes? So it says, Arlington Machinery currently has assets on its balance sheet of $300 million. That it's financed with 70% equity and 30% debt. The executive management team is considering a major expansion that will require raising additional capital. Jeffrey Marian, an analyst with Arlington Machinery, has put together the following schedule for the costs of debt and equity. So, if the company raises between $0 and $49 million of new debt, the after-tax cost of debt would be 4%. If the new debt were between $50 and $99 million, it would be 4.2%. And between 100 and 149 new million dollars of debt, 4.5%. For equity between $0 and $99 million, the cost would be 7%. Between 100 and 199, 8%. And between 200 and 299, 9%. In a presentation to Arlington's executive management team, Marianne makes two statements. Statement one, if we, the company, maintain our target capital structure of 70% equity and 30% debt, the break point at which our cost of equity will increase to 9% is approximately $286 million of new capital. Statement number two, if we want to finance total assets of $600 million, our weighted average cost of capital for additional financing will be 7.56%. Are the statements true? You have to make some numbers, okay? So here is the schedule in the table, and below the table, the statement. Take a few minutes to see if you can answer the question. The question is, are these two statements correct? If they are, prove it. If they are not, prove it too. Tell me the money like that. Right? What is the question? The question is the statements are correct or not? But what is the exercise really trying to make me understand? What is the exercise trying to make us practice?
The breakpoint formula.
Mm-hmm. The breakpoints from the marginal capital schedule position. And the what, right? Because the second one has nothing to do with the breakpoint, but what? Can you read the exercise? Yeah, actually we need to read it one more time. That there is on the screen.
Can you send the exercise questions?
Yes.
Like, see-
How do I do it? Like picture? Is it easier to do that?
I didn't understand.
Like a photograph, yeah?
Yes, there is a, in the searcher, you can search records. There is a app and you can like take a screenshot. I can do it if you want.
Yeah, probably that's good. Thank you. So I can write something. Oh, that's the tool, that's the name of the tool.
Yes. This is a screenshot.
Really? So we, there it is. The question for response. We need to calculate the breakpoint and then go back for $600 million. Yeah.
That we make and why the completely is less than nice and they also get
And I think you respond that because you already answered that previously.
It is a straight line because we're using tabel, so the only thing that changes is the equity, is the equity value. But everything else stays the same because it's the market rate, it's the risk-free rate. So that is why it's a straight line. But the transit,
The cost of debt is not a straight line because it changes depending on the debt ratio. It's not a linear relationship. So capital predicts a linear relationship. So it has to be linear. Right? That's done before. So. Does anyone the answer for the next point? Ready?
I'm thinking of
So it's incorrect? The statement is incorrect?
because the amount of you get yeah, I guess that
Very equity, right? The great point for the cost of equity is 9%.
So it could be, I think, if I divide 200 millions by 0.7, the result is 285. So it is almost 286. The problem is if I divide 299, it would be like 427. So I don't know.
So which one shall we use? Which one is the correct? It's the amount of capital. The numerator is the amount of capital at which the sources cost of capital changes. So does the cost of equity change to 9% at $200 million or at 299? Do you understand my question? In order to calculate the breakpoint in your cost of marginal cost of capital schedule, the numerator of the ratio is the amount of capital, the amount of money at which the cost of equity or the cost of debt changes. So the cost of equity changes at 100 for the first breakpoint. It stays the same up to 199 million. And then changes again at 200 million. It stays the same up to 299. So what is the value of the capital? This is the amount of money at which cost of equity changes to 9%. $200 million. Do we agree?
Yes.
Now, because we are using equity capital for our breakpoint, the denominator of the ratio should be the proportion of that source of capital in the capital structure. So the proportion of equity, which is 70. Did you get 285 chart, 0.0? Yes, 0.0 here?
171.
0.71. So approximately, right? 286. So are these $286 million equity capital, debt capital, or total capital? So, excellent. So this amount of money is total capital. When the company raises 286 million of new capital, 200 of those will be equity. At this amount of new capital, the cost of equity will change to 9%. Did you get it? Yes? Mm-hmm.
So the correct answer would be to put the value we get, or because it's more or less approximately 2,000 millions, you can put that it's more or less okay.
If it were an exam and you answer no because it's 285.71, it would be correct. If you answer yes because it's approximately 286, no, it would be correct. So depending on the reason you provide, the answer may be both. Okay? All right?
Means
Yes.
286 maintaining the debt to equity ratio, right?
Right? Yes. Mhm. That's why the 70% here, right?
That's why it's total new capital.
Exactly. So is the first answer yes? Did you agree on that? So the first statement is approximately true, yeah? It's very true. How about the second one? If the company finance total assets of $600 million, is the what? For this additional financing, 7.56%?
The tax rates.
But it is after tax already. We don't have them, but the cost of debt is after tax.
But still we need to do it over the three.
The
300 million, right?
600. 600. So the statement is, if we want to finance total assets of $600 million, our weighted average cost of capital for the additional financing needed will be 7.56%. Is that true or false?
I got 7.65.
Okay.
It's the same, but I don't know, it says that we have 300 million and the amount of new equity until 299, so we will have like 599 million. So I suppose that the cost of equity could change.
How did you get this for the 7.65?
I just multiplied 4.045 times 0.3. 0.3 plus 0.09.
Yeah.
Times 0.7. 0.7.
And that gives you 765.
65, yes.
In the table, it says that the amount they can most the raise is up to 239 and 300 so that is not the 60 million, the 600 million. They want to finance. Okay, how much it's really information.
How much debt and how much equity are we assuming the company will raise by doing this equation, by doing this calculation?
We're assuming like that the company will issue 180 million debt. And for 20 million.
Can we do that? For both cases, that's will be John's okay, right? So we don't know if the extra approximately 30 million debt would cost still 4.5%. We wouldn't know if the 120 million, 121 million of extra equity will still cost 9%, right? Is that right?
Yes.
So we can say, assuming we both keep the capital structure and for the extra amount of capital needed, we can still aim for the maximum cost of the capital that is on the table, then the weighted average cost of capital will be 7.65%. What do you think will happen if we have extra information? If we have another line in the table or another 2 lines in the table showing what is the cost of debt and what is the cost of equity for 300 to 399 and 150 to 250, what do you think the cost would be? How do you think it would compare to the one we have? Higher. So probably this is the minimum what we can think of as the cost of capital for the $600 million, right? We can assume it will in fact be higher than that. And in both conditions, yeah?
Sorry.
No, go ahead, first.
If you, I was thinking about what Andrew said, if you take that they only finance another 300 million to get a total of 600, the calculation comes out as 7.56 sentences.
Okay, so that would be how much debt and how much equity?
210 debt and 98.
But this is not a debt to equity ratio of 37, is it?
Is
The other way around,
yeah,
90 and 210?
yes.
Okay. And where is the other 300 come?
We already have it current.
Well, it's in current assets. Are we going to liquidate the company? Is that what you are proposing? We have to liquidate the company to get the other $300 million and invest in this project?
They started said we have 300 million in our
In assets, and not in cash.
No, I was thinking like if we went to finance like a total of 600, if we already have. Like assuming the exercise in saying that we want to have a total of 600 million and we.
Oh, that we only need 300.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's double check what the text says. Let's see if we can interpret that. Oh, yeah, could be. If we want to find the total assets of 600 million, so we only need 300 more. Is our weighted average cost of capital 7.56? And in this case, it is true.
Yes.
Okay.
This 165. The ones.
It's not capital 6?
Yes, it's different.
65.
Yeah, this is for 600, isn't it? Am I correct? This is for 300? Is that right or not?
Yes, but
What would be?
Yeah, that's my next question. So is it the same capital structure?
Yes. Yeah.
Why is it different then?
I think this the.
And so then
Would you double check these calculations?
it was
Is it correct?
of the
Because, yeah, okay. It is. This one would be
This for me doing as the.
4.2. 30%. 9 times 2. Okay? Yeah, you are right.
Yes.
So if the additional money that we need is $300, $300 million, because we have already 300 and we just want to reach this $100 million, then the WACC indeed would be 7.56%. For $600 million of new assets, then it won't be 7.56%. It will be higher than 7.65.
So teacher, either interpretation is right. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so for $300 million of new assets, the cost of the weighted average cost of capital is indeed 7.56%. That would be correct. But if we want to finance 600 million of new assets, then the cost of capital will be higher than 7.66. In fact, it will be higher than 7.65.
Why do you use the 4.20%
Here,
in the cost of the, no, the 4,
here,
4.20?
why did we use that? Because we are only using 90 million, and for $90 million, the cost of debt is 4%. Okay?
Right.
Any other question? I'm gonna need your help for another. I'm gonna give you an exercise as homework for Monday. Okay? Because we only have 15 minutes left, so we don't have time to finish it. What I want us to do. So you will start. Bye. That would be it. You're gonna need to read about flotation costs in the CFA paper I shared in the plant materials folder. There is a very brief section in the paper talking about flotation costs. The exercise explains that there are two ways of considering flotation costs when assessing the cost of debt and the cost of equity for a firm. What the exercise tries to do is to show us the effect that one method and the other have. One understates and the other overstates the cost of capital for the firm. Okay? And the exercise says, usually textbooks use this method. But the correct one is this one. Look at the effects of choosing the wrong method to include flotation costs. Give me 5 minutes, so we'll still have time to explain something quick. Intermediary is a financial intermediary is. What is it? Sorry, say it again. What is a financial intermediary? It's usually an institution, right? A company.
Basically, the facilitates I don't know
It's like the flow.
transactions between a buyer and a seller of assets.
Uh-huh.
Security.
Mhm. Okay. An agent that puts together people who need money and people who have money in excess, basically, right? And how do they survive? How do they make money? By commissions, by fees. Flotation costs refer to the fee the intermediary charges to the issuer. The issuer is the company that needs the money. The issuer is the company issuing the bonds for the shares, right? You follow me? So if you come to value and ask for help to sell your shares, they will charge you a fee, a commission, which is based on the amount of money they will raise from the market. They will raise for you on your behalf. It's not the money does for them. But they will charge a proportion of the price of the shares. So flotation costs are usually expressed as a percentage. And they are usually low because they refer to a huge amount of money. So maybe they are 0.15%, or maybe they're 0.26%. There may be some which are very expensive, 0.5%, or even less than that. So it is a percentage of the price they are able to sell your shares in the market, you bought them. Okay? How do we calculate the cost of a bond? The cost of debt for a bond. What do we do? The cost of debt for the bond. The cost of debt. Is the yield to maturity. How do we get that? What information do we need to get the yield to maturity? The price of the bond, the bond price, the coupon rate, the face value. So coupon rate times face value is the coupon in loss and the face value, right? Okay. The internal rates of return of those cash flows equal the yield to maturity of the bond equal the cost of debt of the bond, right?
Yes.
The internal rate of return of the bond, let's say, is 9.86%. If I base the yield to maturity of the bonds on the price of the bond, it's going to be lower than if I calculate the internal rate of return deducted from the bond price the flotation cost. Let's say the bond price is $98. Maybe 50 cents will go to the intermediary. So I, as the issuer, only get 97.5. If I recalculate the yield to maturity of the bond using 97.5 as a cash flow initial cash flow, instead of 98, what happens to the yield to maturity?
No.
It's higher. So the effect of having flotation costs in reality, because they are real, is that the cost of debt for the firm increases. It's higher than the yield to maturity that is reported in Bloomberg, in Economatica, and in Jose. They report yield to maturities based on prices. They do not report cost of debt. If they were, then they would call it cost of debt, right? but the title of the column is yield to maturity, not cost of debt. So we should include flotation cost when we estimate cost of debt and what. That is not reported in the information systems. Is that clear what I'm saying? And if we don't consider it, we are underestimating the cost of debt for the firm, underestimating the WACC, accepting projects we shouldn't accept. So the exercise is about how to, where do we need, what is the effect of flotation cost if I consider flotation cost in the price, or if I consider flotation cost in another cash flow. So the exercise will lead you to the two comparisons so that you have to conclude what is the effect. All right? So very briefly, this is exactly what you have to read in the paper. So if you need to review this, go to the paper and read it. Questions or comments? We are about to enter dividends. So we are about to finish cost of capital content, and we are going to start with dividends. Thank you. Right? Thank you very much. How are you, Ken?
Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. So I'm going to upload the exercise for the homework so that you can answer in a form questionnaire, okay? And we will review it on Monday. Thank you, Aldo, for your help.
It's actually very useful that's not.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was using this. I didn't know what to without time.
Yeah, I didn't know until she everything didn't tell me. I think it's a very useful.
What is your name again?
Mismo recortes lo puedo buscar y de hecho la puede anclar ahí con es recorte y es la secreta. Todos los videos los traen recorte. Que es básicamente lo mismo que multiplicación. Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Bueno,
No, yo puedo utilizar como proxy para el curso, es entiendo, pero el curso que postulamos, pues el rol, lo hacemos con el hable, solo utilizamos el papel. El rol no está basado en el papel, el rol está basado en la división de la actividad, del curso que está explicando.
la tasa que echar el papel, espero que
La verdad es que ese dinero de la venta del equipo se quedaba ese es la aportación de dinero para las personas aquí. La venta de sus acciones no representa ingresos para el ni va a representar utilidad jamás. No es ingreso. Sí, lo uso para comprar activos, pero no aparece como gasto, porque es una inversión.
Y aunque solo era una vez al principio, como que puede seguir aumentando y los ciertos siguen conquistando más retorno.
Sí, porque ya lo gasté. O sea, vendimos las acciones, pero vendiste tu el dinero. Mientras yo no me regrese el dinero a los que te quitan la empresa, tiene que ser un trato de dinero. Entonces, si luego vendimos más acciones, ya está. Y se apuntan y tienen que vender, las dos tienen que vender los dos. Entonces, mientras no se paguen, mientras no nos regresen el dinero Yo creo que la empresa tiene que seguir generando residuos. Y si no generaron este año, la promesa es que se van a acumular y se van a acumular. Es una promesa, no me lo van a, no me lo van a, no se van a comprometer. Pero mientras el dinero esté ahí, en la empresa invertido en computadoras, en casas, tiene que haber promesa de normalmente es perfecta porque es una empresa y si eres un fundador, son clientes en poder. Pero en el momento en el que la empresa decida cerrar, por ejemplo, y te pago tu parte, y te pago tu parte, y te pago tu parte, nos peleamos y vamos a cerrar la empresa hasta los días, hasta ese punto, ahí, pues ahí hacemos cosas a ver si te regresas. Sí, sí. La relación de que es el costo cliente, ¿no? No sé si hagan de cuenta que si sus compañeros no leyeran, pero si no leyeran el paper, ¿verdad? Y se los tuviéramos que explicar, explicar esa parte. ¿Qué es la proposición? No. ¿Qué significa la proposición? ¿Qué es lo que están ellos asumiendo? ¿Qué tipo tienen el valor de la empresa? ¿Qué tipo tienen el valor de la empresa? ¿Qué significa el proposición? Sí. Digo, no. Podría cerrar más tarde, ciertamente, pero sí necesita un momento para cerrar porque cuando uno, porque muchas de las opciones que
como que el valor de
requieren un precio. Todos, por ejemplo, requieren todos los derivados requieren precios. Yo no siento, o sea, todavía podría decir, está la palabra, se puede
pero cuando
y después de estas cosas se hacen los
va a ser igual a .70.
lo mismo que hacen los bancos.
Va a ser 20 por 60, no necesariamente tiene que ser
transferencias que hay entre los intermediarios y se colocan a los
es el jet de
entonces muchos se hacen electrónicamente, pero finalmente hay gente de COVID que tiene que estar revisando
sobre eso.
Entonces seguramente el no cerrar,
o sea, es mayor, estamos diciendo que es mayor y en realidad es más bajo.
Pues significaría que esa gente se le va a acumular el trabajo porque no tienes un espacio donde ya no se lleguen órdenes, ¿no? Las órdenes que llegan en la tarde fuera de horas son muy complicadas, en comparación a las que llegan en la mañana, y son excepcionales. Entonces, si el mercado opera todo el tiempo, primero pues tendría que cambiar toda la convención de PCPCC, porque pues tendría que haber una definición para eso. Yo creo que sí se complicaría mucho, como las acciones son que son
de que por ahí
registrados. Tiene que haber un proceso de lanzar, donde para el hay que decir que tal persona le da y que esas acciones no se ponen a la cuenta de tal persona. Entonces, todo ese trabajo de oficina, administrativo, ¿a qué hora lo haría? ¿Las tendría que estar viendo en tiempo real? Sería muy complicado, a lo mejor sí. Digo, con tanto técnico, pero hoy con tanta tecnología sigue saliendo un chorro de errores. Estábamos en un estado de cuenta que no, bonos del gobierno lo registraban como de privada. Y se supone que eso lo hacen algoritmos. Los accidentes mecánicos. Pero hay muchos errores todavía en la parte tecnológica. Yo recuerdo que si confiáramos a tener un método abierto en los antiguos que dependiera de la tecnología, sí sería mucho caso. Pues yo supongo, no sé la respuesta exacta, no sé qué tipo hasta las 3, no sé qué tipo hasta las 3 y me vamos a hablar. Pero no sé qué lo chilamos. Yo soy a veces un chilango desde que hizo la pero sí se complicarían muchas transacciones. Sí, es que fuera de horario, es como el banco, si el banco cierra, pero la gente es mucha y se va a las 8 de la noche. Porque hay un montón de papeleo que hacer. Y luego los reguladores aquí la comisión cierras el día de operación y te mismo mencionando de coche. Entonces, cierra la bolsa, pero la gente está trabajando en esas cosas que te piden la bolsa. Entonces, creo que eso sería bien. Con todo, y luego me siento y dice, sí, pero ya está abierto. Y aquí se empiezan los otros cuantos abiertos. He hecho todo lo que puedo hacer. Lo que pasa es que cerramos en realidad los mercados financieros siempre están muy comparables. Tú eres una empresa multinacional, tu acción siempre está cotizada. Pero es una empresa doméstica, pues no. Pero las grandes todo el día. Como ahora todo lo manejo desde acá a buscar. Sí.
Maestra, si no incluye, dejar si entendí muy bien o si concluí lo que si no incluimos los costos de profesión, sobreestimamos el costo de la deuda.
Si no incluyen los costos de explotación, están asumiendo que el costo del precio es más chiquito de las materias.
Si, por ejemplo,
en lugar del 9.86, a lo mejor es 10. Si no los consideramos, entonces, porque su valor, porque su flujo, el flujo del año cero es más chiquito. Entonces la tasa tiene que no ser.
Y de Cusanes.
Correcto.
Sea lo que.
Ignorar los costos de explotación subestiman el costo de dinero.
Oiga, profe, estaba pensando en ya ve que cuando usábamos cuando escribíamos la serie de los retornos, cuando hicimos el economarket, ¿recuerdan? Lo sacamos con datos. Pero esa parte no sería como estar usando el método que no es fundamental. El otro técnico, ya ve que es otra ley de serie. Aquí algo así no sería parecido.
Bueno, pero es que bajamos los rendimientos porque estimamos la beta. Entonces, la beta, pues, es una serie de tiempos. Apuesta. Es un factor fundamental finalmente está definido en una serie de tiempos. No de un análisis técnico, de una serie de tiempos. No es lo mismo. Las series de tiempos no necesariamente análisis técnico.
Es lo que yo estaba pensando. Series de tiempo.
¿No? Porque yo, o sea, por ejemplo, si yo quiero saber cuánto he generado de crecimiento en ventas en los últimos 20 años, voy a usar una serie de tiempos y eso no es análisis técnico. Si yo quiero calcular mi interés compuesto en los últimos 5 años, eso va a ser una serie de tiempos, pero no es análisis.
¿Y por qué no lo dice?
¿Por qué no vemos análisis técnico? Análisis técnico Estrictamente hablando, no forma parte de finanzas corporativas, forma parte de algo más amplio, que es análisis bursátil. Nuestra clase es finanzas corporativas. Es un análisis o mercado de los capitales.
En la otra materia que es derivados, puedo decirle que usted algo.
Que yo, o sea, según los planes de, o según los que veamos que tenemos en la materia, licenciatura no tenemos ninguna materia que vea análisis técnico. Por lo tanto, lo tenemos en maestría. Entonces, la idea siempre ha sido, pues, tenemos que hacer cosas diferentes en licenciatura y en maestría. No podemos dar lo mismo. Análisis técnico y fundamental es una materia en la maestría.
Ya sé.
Y aquí, que yo recuerde, antes de que no recuerdo que hayamos discutido un análisis técnico.
Se utiliza más en el mercado. Sí.
Lo que pasa es que tal vez te digo, como está pensado darles una introducción a las finanzas corporativas, más que al mercado bursátil, pues bueno, uno no alcanza, el tiempo no nos alcanza. La verdad es que si quisiéramos incluirlo, el tiempo no nos alcanza. Dos, como no es, digamos, la parte nuclear de finanzas corporativas, por una parte de las finanzas, pero como que no se tienen diferentes disciplinas, no áreas, entonces queda fuera de lo que es finanzas corporativas. Entonces, pues no forma parte del contenido prioritario. Nunca nos sobra tiempo, la verdad,
No,
para avanzar, ¿no?
no.
Y luego las materias optativas están pensadas en darle herramientas adicionales a finanzas corporativas, pero fíjate que nunca hemos incluido, digo, no sé, simplemente nunca lo hemos discutido, análisis técnico fundamental, tal vez porque como lo tenemos en la maestría, pues no lo hemos pensado en acá. Digo, no tendría, no hay razón de por qué no. No hay ninguna razón por la cual.
Simplemente nos ha puesto un
Simplemente pues, no.
El que quieran que no sea, la veremos allá. Y
Pues, digamos que es un tema más como más especializado. Yo en maestría doy matemáticas de gestión. A veces estoy derivado.
no es seguro.
¿Qué pasa?
Derivados.
¿Aquí? No, porque derivados que yo estaba pues maestros. Como a mí me dieron liderazgo,
Quizás.
yo los objetivos daba, aquí en ese centro yo daba portafolios y derivados. Y evaluación de internacionales y derivados. Y ahorita derivados lo está dando otra persona, no me acuerdo quién. Pero mi había anunciado porque a mí me pudieron a mí esa parte con la de liderazgo. Pues me dieron liderazgo y pues ellos me enviaron.
¿Va a ser así también el cierto?
Pues no sé, a mí me gustaría que me gustaría que las materias se variaran porque es bueno para uno.
Si no va a tocar.
Pero pues no es que me defino. Es más fácil moverme a mí que mover a un maestro que viene con la asignatura. Porque pues yo tengo preparadas muchas clases y tengo que decir, hola. El maestro que nomás viene de asignatura, pues nomás tiene escuela. Y entonces,
Se puede cambiar en cualquier.
básicamente, somos como, los que estamos aquí de planta somos como libres.
Tiene toda.
Entonces, normalmente empiezan asignándole a los que no están de planta, porque ellos no mandan cierta cosa y ya. Y los que estamos aquí, pues, podemos dar más planta, ¿no? No depende ya de mí.
Lo veremos. La pediremos así.
Eso puede ser. Eso puede ser.
Si va a ser demanda, pues sí.
Pues, ¿sí? Es como liderazgo, ¿no? No existía la materia, no había que la diera, y la pidieron en verano y la vimos.
Bueno,